The following podcast may contain adult language and an abundance of salt. So get ready, nerds, because we're talking Foundation, Episode 1, The Emperor's Peace. Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Salty Nerd Podcast. Today we are going to be doing a spoiler-filled review of Episode 1 of Apple TV's Foundation. And I am joined, as always, by my fantastic panel of nerds, starting with the ambassador of estrogen, Jude.
Oh, hello.
Well, hello.
I get to be first?
You get to be first today. How are you doing?
I'm trying to catch me off my game.
Well, he was tweeting.
Oh. I wasn't. I was pulling my notes up.
I was about to take a drink.
Good. See, that's why I did it first.
Yeah.
Also here is the barbarian space Viking, Matt Vader. What's up, dude?
Hey.
How you doing, buddy?
Here we are.
Here we are.
Foundation, baby.
Talking about this show.
Yeah. Something else.
I feel like we're at the start of something epic.
This is some like highbrow sci-fi.
It really is.
Yeah.
This got some production value behind it.
I don't know how to be funny with this stuff.
We'll get there.
It's going to be weird.
We'll get there.
All right.
Matthew Kadish is also here. Welcome, sir.
Thanks. So I am obsessed with this show. I must have watched these two episodes like 5 times each.
He
Oh,
did.
shit.
Yeah.
I only watched them once.
Like I dive deep into these shows and I was like, ooh, I got a lot of theories.
Cool.
So the show's going to be like 4 hours long. I do have to go home at some point today.
Yeah.
I feel like they made these just for Kadish.
Well,
They probably did.
Well,
yeah.
this is that highbrow sci-fi that it's like right up, you can get real nerdy about this. You can either look at it at a surface level, like I think me and Vader probably are. We're like, oh, that's really pretty. Oh, that's cool shit. And then you can also go super deep dive like Kadish likes to do and like theory
He can
craft.
get deep diving on his own show.
We're going to have a good mix.
That's right.
All right, guys, before we get into it, we're going to take a quick break, listen to some sponsors. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Hey, if you like what we do here and you want to see more of this show in particular, this first episode is going to be public, but the rest of the season is going to be members only. Go to saltynerdclub.com and become a club member, and you'll get access to the entire season of our reviews of Foundation. So if you like what we do with our other stuff, whether it's C or some of the other focus reviews that we do, Mythic Quest, things like that. If you like our style, come join the club membership, and we're going to do Foundation for club members only. That's saltynerdclub.com. Join up. You get a ton of backlog content from the last 2 years, plus 4 episodes every single month, plus outtake reels and Discord access and all kinds of really cool stuff that goes along with it. But in particular, this show right here, after episode 1, it's all memberships only. All right. Matthew Kadish, take it away, sir. What is this show, first episode, all about?
All right. So season 1, episode 1, The Emperor's Peace. I just want to welcome everyone to the first ever adaptation of the classic Isaac Asimov space epic Foundation, brought to the small screen by David S. Goyer and Josh Friedman. This is the first attempt to adapt a story that spans 1,000 years and multiple main characters to live action, and we're going to see how it goes. So I just wanted to get the group's take on what was your initial kind of, take on this episode?
I fell in love fairly quickly. I was in. I think I was absolutely blown away by the production value. The space scenes, the space ships, the sprawling cities, everything was like on point for this show. And especially that opening scene where it kind of looks like Luke Skywalker's little land speeder going across the desert or whatever. I was like, oh my God, like it was all practical effects, or at least it felt like practical effects with some, maybe they used that new technology.
No.
This scene right here where she's sitting in the speeder. Oh, well, that's damn good CGI.
That's all CGI.
That's freaking really good then. But anyway, I was blown away. I was in. I was a little confused. I know very, very little about the source material. I did a little bit of backstory and like kind of looking up what it was all about. So I have like a foundation.
Smooth.
Thanks. I have a foundation for what this show is going to be about, but I'm absolutely like first timer. This is my first experience with this story. So I'm kind of in, and so far, really like it. I'm very impressed with the production value, and I'm very impressed with the acting, and I think it's setting up something really, really epic. So I'm looking forward to it. What about you, V?
I'm with you there. I don't know what else I can add. I guess I agree with you 100%. The production value is really good. It seems like we're in the introduction phase with this show. So it's just kind of, this is what it's going to look like. These are a couple of the characters. I'm sure we're going to get more characters as we go, especially if it's over 1,000 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And but no, this was a great setup episode. They get right into telling us the story, and I'm impressed. I'm very impressed so far, and I'm intrigued.
I'm actually glad to hear this because I was worried after we finished watching it. I was like, I don't think Vader's going to like this show.
Maybe I won't 3 or 4 episodes in, but right now I'm liking it because it's not like anything else on TV or in the theaters. This is science fiction. This is not some other bullshit show with people running around with tights and capes on, like everything else that's out there.
Yeah, it's a nice shift.
This is a nice shift. It really is. This is the show that for the first time in a couple of years that I get 2 minutes into it and I put my phone down and I go, okay, I need to watch this show.
Yeah.
Because I need to pay attention. There's not a lot of TV shows that do that anymore.
Especially
most of the time I'm social media or something and watching the show at the same time. This one, no, you got to put your shit down and you got to watch it and pay attention.
Yeah.
And
that's kind of how I feel about the Marvel shows. Like if you were to compare like Falcon and Winter
Exactly.
Soldier, that's very much like a popcorn. Oh, what's happening? Oh, okay, cool. And then, but this one, I think,
and I mean, I'm not, and I also will admit I'm a little bit intrigued because Foundation books have been around since forever.
Yeah.
It's Asimov. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows how influential this guy was. This book has highly influenced pretty much everything that we've grown up with since before we were around.
Yeah.
I mean, and you watch this stuff. I haven't read the books. So I know Jude has, and I know Matt has, but I have not. So I'm kind of looking forward to hearing their perspective and my perspective as a heathen non-book reader. and it's kind of, I'm looking forward to the, like the whole Game of Thrones thing. There was the book people and the non-book people.
Yeah.
Well, the book people obviously are going to have a different perspective. But for me, this thing seems cool. We're 1 episode in, and it's epic, and there's a lot of really cool concepts in this thing, and that's all I got for now.
Okay.
So,
Jude, how about you?
She's out.
She's got the salt.
Standing alone on a mountain of dicks.
Juju.
I feel really betrayed by all of you.
Oh, no.
Did you not like this?
Really didn't.
It's okay.
Why not?
She was angry.
Angry?
I hate watched it.
What?
And, I watched them twice, and I have listened to the audiobook. I've only read the first book.
Okay.
I listened to the audiobook, and then I went and read the book. And I get that this is so Asimov is the original sci-fi nerd, and I get that this is obviously a huge undertaking to adapt it. Mm-hmm. I get really irate when you change things that, in my opinion, are unnecessary changes.
Okay.
And I get that this is a story that you're following. Not when you're reading the book, you're following the story, not the characters.
Okay.
Because it spans so much time, and you kind of leap from character to main character to main character, and you're just following the evolution of this story. And that's really hard to do with a visual medium. So I get why they're making it more character centric. However, I really wish that I hadn't read the books because I think I would have enjoyed this more had I not. And like Vader said, this is a show that you have to just really pay attention to. And I consider myself a nerd, and I get really irritated at stuff that I have to watch multiple times in order to grasp what the show is doing. So that it made me feel irritated. And I'm trying to separate myself from the book because I feel like you really need to. Mm-hmm. And given that I've only watched or read the first book, I had to do a deep dive on well, why did they make this change, and who the hell is this character? And I get that they're taking stuff from other books, especially the prequels, to tell the story of what happened between part 1 of the book and part 2 of the book. They're telling a tale that has happened in between there that's not in book 1. It's in the prequels.
Okay.
So I get that, and I respect that, and I think that's really cool. However, there are several things that I'm really irritated with, and I guess I understand that they're trying to be more inclusive because Asimov does not write a whole lot of female characters, and I get that. However, as a female who's read the book, it's an unnecessary change that I didn't feel like I needed to be represented.
Okay.
You're talking about the gender swapping of Gaal Dornick and
Hardin.
Salvor Hardin.
Which ones are they?
Gaal is our main character who is dating Raish.
with the
Yeah.
Yes.
the
prayer
Purdy.
stones.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that
And-
was a race swap.
Mm-hmm.
See, I don't
Well,
know.
gender-
that.
It was gender and race.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Although they never specify the race in the books. But Salvor Hardin, which was the warden girl at the beginning and end of this episode, she was also a man in the books. And Demerzel was a male character in the books as well. And we'll get into that when we start getting into the.
Okay. So, Kadish, what are your opening thoughts? You said you were pretty impressed with this.
Yeah, I'm complete opposite end of where Jude is.
That's why I feel so betrayed.
Well, it's kind of funny because she called me out on my Game of Thrones hatred because like I hate watched that entire show because the books were so much better. But in this situation, I feel like the books were just kind of like a good framework because they weren't like, the first book of Foundation is just like 5 short stories put together that Asimov had written and kind of like a loose kind of connection. And my big fear going into the show was that it was produced by David S. Goyer, who I'm not typically a fan of. And like the last TV show he did, Da Vinci's Demons, like I went full on that show. Like I really wanted to like it. And it was just miserable. It was such a stupid show. And so I was afraid that would kind of translate to this. But I'm actually really impressed with what I've seen so far, because to me, the mark of a good show is a show that you can go back and rewatch and find new stuff and still like, kind of obsess over it. And I feel like these first 2 episodes did that perfectly. In fact, I found some interesting information on this show. So basically they have 80 episodes planned.
Oh my God.
8 seasons of 10 episodes each. So basically, they have a roadmap that they're following and they know the story they're going to tell. And there's a quote from Goyer, which I found very interesting. And it's a quote that encapsulates his vision of the show. And he says, "It's a 1,000-year chess game between Harry Seldon and the Empire, and all the characters in between are pawns. But some of the pawns over the course of the saga end up becoming kings and queens." And I thought that perfectly encapsulates what they're going for.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So like, I really love, like, visually, this show beats anything else on TV right now.
Hands down.
100%.
Yeah. Like it looks like $100 million movie. Every episode does.
Yep.
So however they're going about doing the special effects, it feels like a science fiction show.
Well, they got Apple money behind them.
And that's where they sold me. I'm like, wow, they really.
Well, you love the spectacle.
Well, I've said it 100 times on the show. I'm a visual guy.
Yeah.
Visual guy.
Entertain my eyes.
But it's also, it goes to the world building. Like Trantor is very different from Synax, and Terminus is very different from those two. So like you get a unique sense of like this universe that they're building out. And I didn't have a problem like Jude did with a lot of the race swapping, gender swapping stuff, simply because in Asimov's books, like he's very story centric. And so the Foundation story is kind of like the thing that carries the narrative with the books. And the characters are just kind of like almost plug and play, with the exception of maybe Harry Seldon. So I feel like all the changes that were made in a way enhanced the books, or the story from the books, in a way that I'm finding very interesting and unique. Like, for instance, in the books, there was no Trantor space station and Skybridge going down to the planet.
That thing was awesome.
That was dope.
Yeah, and we'll get to that.
That thing irritated me.
But they're also incorporating a lot of religious stuff early on. That doesn't come in usually until Salvor Hardin's story kind of gets moving. But the interesting thing is just the way that they're telling the story, and we'll get into it once we start our recap. But I feel like the liberties that they're taking with the source material, because I'm usually like stick to the source material, don't veer off of it.
Yeah.
But I feel like the liberties they're taking are all very smart, and I'm on board to see where they go.
So you don't want them to take liberties with the overall story, but they're taking their liberties with individual characters, which is okay to you?
Well, I feel like the books are so kind of like anemic in terms of like description and character development and character growth and stuff like that, that all like the little things that they're peppering in with the show make the world fleshed out more than the books were. And so like, I'm okay with the changes that they're making, as opposed to Jude, who, she went full on Meg with this one. And if you don't know the story behind that, so one of her favorite books is The Meg. And when we went to go see the movie, she flipped her lid about how bad of an adaptation that movie
I got
was.
violently angry at anyone who came out and said they liked it. We went with a couple of friends, and my one girlfriend was like, "That was great," and I was like, "Fuck you!" I was like, "You're dead to me."
That's interesting. All right, so let's get into the this episode 1 recap, Mr.
Okay.
Kadish. Go for
So
it.
before we get into it, I just want to take a moment and talk about the opening credit sequence. So later on in the episode, we're introduced to the Mural of Souls, which is a mural painted by the senior member of the genetic dynasty using active chrome, or what they call chroma. And the mural depicts the Galactic family and the role they played in 4 centuries of peace within the Galactic Empire. And the opening credits use this concept to show figures made from this active chrome, which depicts elements of the Galactic Empire, all leading up to an image of Seldon's prime radiant, which is the object that contains the psychohistory calculations designed to save the galaxy. And when I first saw the opening sequence, I was just kind of like, that's kind of weird. But then, like, after having watched the show multiple times, I'm like, oh, okay, now I get what they're going for.
Again, another show that uses the opening credits as a way of like hinting to what's going on in the show.
And I'm going to stop you because if you start saying names wrong, I'm just going to fly across the table. So I'm just going to reiterate that it's Seldon, not Zeldin.
You're correct.
And Gaal, not Gaal.
Gaal, yeah.
The destroyer of words.
The destroyer of words, Matthew Kadish.
In my head, it's pronounced correctly. But I also feel like the people who did the opening sequence for this were the same people who did the new opening sequence for the second season of C.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it looks like very similar in style.
I think I've talked about this before too, but these new TV shows that they have, right? You got to pay attention to everything, including the opening and closing credits. I blame Marvel.
I actually blame
some-
Game of Thrones.
and Game of Thrones as well, because even subtle little changes can give you clues and hints about what's going to happen in the show.
Yeah.
And I love that. I really do. So
I do too. And I think that enhances the story and it makes you really, from the beginning, get more invested in it.
I think it enhances the experience of actually watching the show.
I
When you're
agree.
watching the opening scene and you're looking for those little clues and hints, it makes you sink into the show, and then when the actual show starts, you're like, you're ready to go.
I remember Game of Thrones did that, and we're like, hey, wait a minute, that opening title scene was different than last week.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That entire country is missing. What's going to happen?
Why is Winterfell got freaking Baratheon, or what is
Those
it?
sons of bitches.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if this show continues that trend, or if it's just like this.
Yeah.
I think it will. We'll see. All right, go for it, Mr. Kadish.
All right, so the series starts on the planet Terminus with a voiceover by Gaal Dornick, our main heroine, at least for now. Gaal fills us in on a lot of exposition that won't make sense just yet, but probably will as the series unfolds. So things like Terminus is super important. Gaal never makes it to Terminus. Salvor Hardin, Hober Mallow, and the Mule are important characters to remember. And Harry Seldon is a mathematician, a martyr, a murderer, and the most important player of all.
Wow, I didn't pick up on any of that first time when I watched through this, but yeah.
It's all there. When he's saying his, I'm like, oh yeah, they did say that, didn't they?
So I only had time to watch these 2 episodes one time, and I know like you've seen it 5, and you've seen it a couple times. So yeah, I do want to go watch it again.
Yeah.
I think, okay, so I've been wanting to do this with a show. I was thinking about doing it with C, but it doesn't quite fit the way that show is presented. But I think what I'm going to do with this show is every time there's a new episode, I'm going to go back and watch the previous episode.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
And go like 1 step forward, 2 steps back kind of a thing. Because I feel like it's really easy to get lost.
I think just the nature of this series kind of lends itself to you need to recap yourself to see what's coming. So yeah,
I agree.
Well, what's interesting is, so like this opening dialogue or monologue that Gaal has, it's such a rich thing for people who know the books, because you're like, oh, Salvor Hardin, Hober Mallow, the Mule, like we know who those characters are. People like you guys coming into it cold, like you have no idea.
Yeah, see, you're saying these names, they really don't mean anything to me, except for Harry.
Yeah.
You know, he's the only one I really picked up on, and Empire, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. But when I heard those names, I was like, oh. Because in the books, Gaal disappears after the first story, which is the psychohistorians. And that kind of details what happens in this episode, where he in the books travels to Trantor, meets with Harry Seldon for the first time, and then they have the trial, and that trial leads into the establishment of the first foundation on Terminus. And after that, Gaal disappears from the narrative. Like, you never see him again. Huh. Supposedly, he makes it to Terminus and he helps set up the time vault on that planet, but that's told just almost like offhandedly in the next story. And the real kind of main character, I would say, of the first book is Salvor Hardin. It's his story that's kind of where all the action starts. And then once Salvor Hardin's kind of story concludes, it goes into a character named Hober Mallow, who's kind of like a Han Solo type guy. He's a smuggler, he's a spacer, he's kind of a ladies' man. And he's like the next leader of the Foundation after Hardin is.
Oh, cool.
And then the Mule is like the Darth Vader / Emperor character. He's like the overarching bad guy of the entire series. And the idea that Gaal knows who all three of these people are right from the start is very interesting to me, because it makes it seem like the showrunners are condensing the timeline so that all these major characters from the story are going to somehow meet and interact with one another.
So I feel like they did change some timeline stuff in the first couple of episodes. Am I wrong, or did they say like, this is how long things are going to be bad for, and then this is how we can fix it? I feel like they did adjust that. Well, because in the book, it's like 3,000 years of darkness, but it
was 30,000.
30,000, but I can get it to 1.
That's what they said in the show.
Did they?
Yep.
Okay.
I thought he said 5.
No. He said that in 500 years is when the Dark Ages begin, and the galaxy will be in the Dark Ages for 30,000 years.
Okay.
He's trying to soften the fall. If the emperors get rid of the genetic dynasty, they can extend it by 200 years, so 700 years the empire has before it falls. But it's still 30,000 years of darkness unless my plan is followed, in which case the fall will be softened from 30,000 to 1,000.
This concept, again, because I didn't read the books, this is all new to me.
It's pretty cool.
This concept is freaking really cool. The what is it?
Psychohistory.
Psychohistory. I'm like, I start thinking about it, and I'm like, wow, that's freaking fascinating.
It's just completely based on mathematical figures.
Yeah, I'm so in. The only thing that I'm not in quite yet is the visual representation of him like manipulating the math equation. Mm-hmm. I'm really not sold on that, because it just
looks on his iPad.
Yeah, on his iPad. Yeah. It just looks like a bunch of mumbo jumbo. Like, oh, there's this like holographic sphere that he's messing with.
You're talking about the Rubik's cube.
Yeah. That projects the sphere.
Yeah.
I'm like, I see
that was really cool.
It is cool, but when I look at
That's
it,
the prime radiant.
Yeah, when I look at it, I'm like, I don't see how anybody can ever make sense of that. Like, that's not a mathematical equation.
I made perfect sense of it.
Really?
Yeah, I could understand everything.
I didn't
like,
get it.
Oh, that's okay.
Good for you.
Very nice. Yeah. All right.
Well, also one thing that's important to point out as we go into this. So the opening scene, the opening segment of this first episode starts 35 years into the future on Terminus. And then the bulk of the episode is a flashback 35 years prior to the start. And I really think that these first 2 episodes are kind of like the prequel to the main story, because it looks like episode 3 is going to start with the Terminus storyline, which is really the bulk of the first Foundation novel, which is Salvor Hardin's kind of like story.
So this is all just set up.
Yeah. But I think that there's going to be a lot of crossover. Like, so much stuff was set up in these first 2 episodes that I think is going to pay off later on in the season.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, let's move on, because I really want to talk about the empires.
So we start off with a group of kids from the Terminus colony who travel to the Vault, a big mysterious object that projects a null field that prevents any living thing from approaching it. The kids play a game of null field chicken, trying to make it as close as they can to the vault before they can't take it anymore and have to turn back. One of the kids, Polly, wants to see the ghost of the vault and goes so far into the null field that he passes out. His friends run off for help, and Polly is eventually rescued by the colony's warden, Salvor Hardin. We learn that Hardin supposedly can approach the vault without any ill effects from the null field. And I just want to point out that Polly is the character Polly Verisov, and he's a character that becomes very important later on in Hardin's story. So,
cool.
So when I found out that, like, oh, that's the kid version of this character that pays off later on in the story, I was like, oh, that's very interesting.
That'll be really cool. Good to know. Yeah. Spoiler warning.
And Salvor Hardin is also a major character in the first Foundation and the events on Terminus. So we're introduced to both these characters in this opening scene. What did you guys think of it?
I was very interested, kept me entertained. I love the little kid, like, let's play chicken with this, monument thing. It seems like something the kids would do. And I was in. Again,
I have one word.
Go ahead.
Intrigued.
Yeah.
And that's all it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And it intrigued me. And
now I want to know.
I want to know why.
I want to know what's in that thing.
Yeah. So
Yep. I want to know why it's there.
job accomplished.
I want to know why there's a force field around it. I'm in. So yeah, I liked it. Jude,
As
did
long,
you?
as long as the scene makes you ask questions about what you want to know, you'll keep watching.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. But there's a fine line, right? So you have to make it interesting, but you also have to make it not so complicated that you lose interest. So I'm like,
Exactly.
I want to know more. So Jude, what did you think about the scene? Did you were you in?
I'm curious. You didn't hate the children in this scene?
They didn't do anything cool.
Okay.
They were being stupid kids.
Yeah. If they jump off and fly a fucking spaceship
Although-
and
Did the one go, if you get up there, I'll let you see my tit? Is that
yes,
what,
they were talking about tits.
So
Yep. I was not going to mention that, but now that you did,
that was a little weird.
That was a little weird.
It was a little weird.
Okay.
It was
but-
like, I'll let you see one for 30
I'll let
seconds.
you see my little my boobies.
Both for 5 minutes. It was-
Just
I wasn't going to talk about the kid tits, but Vader brought it up. So there you go.
Yeah, the Foundation probably didn't preserve any of the pornography of the galaxy. So
I've never seen a boob before.
probably hasn't.
Is it awesome?
Whoa. I can't talk about that
Because
anymore.
I was like, is that a dude or a chick? Like, I can't tell.
that was the thing. They were very
It's like, I'll let you see my tit. But what is a dude? Why
Yeah,
don't I
all
see
of the
his tit?
kids look like little hobbits.
yeah,
I know.
yeah. All the kids look like they could be both. And there actually was a moment where I was like, oh, that's a girl. I had no
Yeah,
idea.
that's why I got weirded
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah, when the character said that, I turned to Jude. I was like, "Oh, that's a girl."
Yeah.
It looked like a little boy.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, totally. All right, what happens next?
All right, so now we jump 35 years into the past to the Imperial Library on the capital planet of Trantor, and we meet Harry Seldon for the first time. Seldon is going over some of his psychohistory equations when his adopted son, Raish, comes and tells him that she'll be on her way soon. Harry comforts Raish about the monumental task before them, and Raish asks Harry if he wished there was another way, and Harry says every day, but this is the optimal time. And when we end the scene on a shot that is almost biblical with Seldon basked in a blue halo, that looks absolutely beautiful.
This scene, I couldn't help but see the Jedi Archive
Oh,
library.
yeah.
I was like, oh, this is exactly where they got that from. It's literally like
And
if you take up,
he's on Coruscant.
yeah, he's
in the
on
Jedi
Coruscant
Temple.
at the Jedi.
And-
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Coruscant was based on Trantor.
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
yeah, I know. That's what I love about this. I'm like watching it. I'm like, oh, I totally
It's
get
like,
where they got that from.
George Lucas.
That hack.
He's a stealing motherfucker. Inspired. He was
But, like,
inspired.
the
He
bookshelves-
just straight ripped it off. It
Yeah,
was just like,
because if you look at the, I wonder if you could do this in editing. I don't know if you're going to do this or I'm going to do this, but there's a scene in Episode 3 of Star Wars where they're at the Jedi Temple
same
Archive, and it's literally the same thing. There's bookshelves, and then in between each one, there's
okay,
the
but
bust of
here's-
like a.
Here's the question, though.
Yeah, what's up?
Did they rip off George Lucas for that scene, or did George Lucas rip off something from them? It's a chicken and egg situation.
I don't
here.
know. It's
because George Lucas made the movie first, but Asimov wrote the book first.
It
And then this
depends-
Foundation show came out after George Lucas.
Yeah.
It's like, who inspired what?
It depends
You know?
on how descriptive the book was about the library. Do you know if the book literally said there was large, 2-story tall bookshelves with busts of important figures, adorning each hallway.
And it's not just the library. It's the cars.
Spit it out.
going between the buildings and the tall buildings and the sublevels of the city.
Yeah.
And all this stuff. Yeah, it's like, okay.
Yeah, so in the books, it might have been described in the prequel novels, but I don't think that it was described in the first Foundation novel. I'm pretty sure it wasn't.
Okay.
So anyway,
We're a bunch of Star Wars
I
nerds.
know. It's like, we're going to compare it to stuff that we
Oh
know.
yeah, 100%.
on the planet Synax, Gaal Dornick is preparing to leave the planet after forsaking her culture's religion. She has won a position at the Streeling University on Trantor after solving the Abraxas conjecture, a challenge put out by Seldon. Math and science has been outlawed on the planet, and she is fleeing before she can be arrested or killed. Her parents take her to an Imperial landing pad where 2 of her village's priests wait to ensure she leaves the planet in exile. Gaal says goodbye to her parents and leaves behind everything she's ever known on the Imperial dropship.
What the hell is this?
Hate it.
What the hell is this? A planet
They
that
don't like
exiles math and science.
Yeah, they're very, very, I don't know.
So Synax in the books is barely mentioned. It's mentioned like maybe once to say where Gaal came from. So this show is fleshing out what Synax is. And basically on Synax, it's a theocratic society where where basically they're ruled by a religion. And the religion on Synax has gone through what they call the purge or the scourge or something like that, where basically they burned down all the universities, they've outlawed science and math, and basically religion is it's basically a fundamentalist society.
So to compare it to modern times for right now, it's what happens if the Taliban takes over the entire planet.
Except not as,
but
well,
that
yeah.
kind of concept, you know, is like, oh shit, these crazy religious people that don't believe in anything took over, and then after 1,000 years, then that's kind of the way things are.
It's kind of oddly specific about math and science. Like you literally cannot live without using math and science in some way or form.
The thing about Synax though is that it's an imperial planet, and so they have the support of the empire. But and they're a very agricultural society, so they like fish. Like the planet's mostly water. And so they're very simple.
Don't count how many fish you have, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like they don't outlaw like counting and stuff like that. What they outlaw is the study of math and science because they believe it cheapens the belief in God.
Okay, so
I mean, basically, Harry is using math to tell the future.
So I would have rather of them have been like, we're outlawing what was it? Psychohistory. If it was more specific, and then she was like, no, I'm studying psychohistory, and then they exiled her for that, that would have made sense. But it was so generic.
Well, psychohistory is such a fringe science at this point. Yeah. Like only a few mathematicians can actually understand it.
Which I could understand if this society was like, we're not allowed to talk about that. Like, I get that. And it would also in line with the Empire's role of like, hey, we don't talk about this because it's against us. But they go so generic with like, no math or science. Like, no math or science? Like, you literally can't count fish. You literally can't tell, hey, this stick is 5 feet tall and I need that to build my house. Like,
how does your spaceship work?
Yeah, exactly. They have a freaking landing spot for a spaceship to come down. It's just,
that's the Empire's infrastructure.
It's just really weird.
It is.
I don't disagree with you, but I think that one of the interesting things about this is that it's a world building for this particular world. And the religious aspect that they're kind of taking from Synax and feeding into the drama on Trantor is very intriguing to me because religion plays a big role, at least in the second and the third story in the book. So I like that they're setting the stage for this type of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it didn't bother me much.
It just bugged me with how generic it was because it made me ask those questions. Like,
I think religions are whack anyway.
So, a little bit. Yeah.
All right, so the dropship takes Gaal to an Imperial jump ship. On the ship, she meets a fellow traveler named Jarrell, who starts showing her the ropes as they get into their jump pods and prepare for the trip to Trantor. After being secured in the pods by the spacers, Gaal starts displaying some unique abilities. She potentially reads Jarrell's mind when she asks, "Did you say something?" And then during the jump, she awakens and must be put back to sleep by the spacers. As it turns out, if non-spacers are awake during the jump, it could cause a psychotic break.
I have so many questions about this.
We could probably talk about this scene for hours.
I had no idea that happened. When you just said she read his mind, I must have like not realized what was going on in that scene. She actually did that?
All right, so you guys want to hear a theory?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so in the Foundation universe, there are these beings called mentalics. And these are kind of variations of mutants who have like mental abilities that allow them to read minds and also influence other people's minds. It's almost like a Jedi mind trick type of scenario. And these are people who basically throw Seldon's plan completely for a loop every time they're introduced into the main narrative because he can't account for them. And Gaal in the original book, he's basically just Seldon's biographer. He has no real powers, no real agency or anything like that. He shows up. We're told the story through his eyes, and then like he fucks off somewhere, and we never see or hear from him again. But the Gaal in this book or in this show is displaying certain mentalic powers that also Salvor Hardin seems to be displaying, and these are powers that the Mule also has, and this is how he's able to kind of combat.
You think they're merging the characters?
I don't think they're merging the characters. I think that they're laying the foundation to show that Gaal is a outlier because of her mentalic powers, and that these are going to be more like there are hints throughout these two episodes that she has these powers. She just doesn't know how to quantify them. And the first was in this scene where when Jarrell approaches, she's like, "Did you say something?" He's like, "No." So she was kind of reading his mind. And then when she wakes up and she's actually able to see the jump sequence, which, you know, is supposedly bad if you're not a spacer, that just shows that she's different. And throughout this entire episode, she talks about how different she is.
Okay.
They're incorporating several different things from several different characters into Gaal.
Yeah, because this is going to, I'm assuming for at least the first season.
They're making Gaal the special girl.
Yeah. You roll your eyes at that when you say that? Why? Do you just hate that idea?
It's so trite. It annoys me. Why? Fine, you're changing Gaal to a woman. Okay, fine. Now you're giving her a romance. Eye roll. And now you're making her the special girl. It's fucking infuriating.
Wow,
Like, can't she
I get it.
just be a fucking character that aligns with the book? You have to, if we're gonna make her a girl, we need to make her a special girl, because she can't just be a girl. There has to be a reason why she's special and a girl. Fuck you. You can't make Asimov better.
Wow.
Yeah, well, she's right. You know, I'm not a book reader, but I would probably be kind of pissed off too. I mean, like you just said, you can't make Asimov better.
Thank you.
And I totally understand that. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to say that exact same thing. And I completely get it, because we've seen it done on many, many other shows.
Oh yeah. If we like something,
Stick to the fucking source material, you know, as much as you can.
Like if they went and they made freaking Frodo a special girl,
yeah.
we would all roll our eyes.
Yeah.
Why the fuck does Frodo have to be this special girl? Yeah,
These
I get
books are important to a lot of people.
Mhm.
So I completely understand people being pissed off about these kind of changes. So I get it. I do.
I actually disagree with the special girl thing. I don't think that they're making her a chosen one. They're introducing the concept of these outliers, and Salvor Hardin's one as well, as we'll find out at the end of the episode. But the mule is also the biggest one. And so the idea that they're introducing this with Gaal, and they want to make Gaal kind of like the through line, I think, throughout all these stories. And so to give her these powers and let her discover these powers as other characters figure out that they have the same powers could be interesting. So like, I don't know if they're making her like the chosen one necessarily, but they're definitely giving her a lot more agency than the character had in the book.
To find out how many times Jude fights with Kadish, join our club, saltinerdclub.com.
Join the Patreon.
Join the Patreon. You can
Not
watch
the patriarchy.
God, clip that.
Yeah. All right. So when the jump ship arrives at Trantor, it docks with a massive Trantor space station. Gaal is exposed to her first taste of Imperial intrigue when she sees a funeral contingent on the station, as Jarrell explains to her that there is a feud between two planets at the galaxy's edge called Anacreon and Thespis, where Imperial appraisers were killed. Gaal then takes the sky bridge down to the planet for a nice long 14-hour trip. Trantor has close to 100 subterranean levels over its surface and is home to billions of people.
Dude, this is so freaking cool sci-fi
Yeah, it's
shit.
pretty wild
I
stuff.
was watching this and I'm like, I was so in. It's so gorgeous.
Yeah, they did a great job.
I'm watching this scene where they're in this giant like space elevator thing. It was one of the freaking coolest looking things I've seen in a long time on TV or movies.
Mm-hmm.
I was sold. I'm like, I didn't even pay attention to what anybody was saying. I was just like, drool, freaking sci-fi drool.
Yeah, it's a tethered version of the Starfleet space station.
Well, yeah, I mean, space elevators are like a concept that's out there that
that's a real
it's a real
concept,
thing.
yeah.
So I just to see that like come to life in such like visually stunning style was really, really fun.
really neat.
I loved it. Any other comments about this scene?
No.
Jude says she hates the space elevator.
Well,
It's in the book.
Okay.
And I'm sorry that I'm going to keep saying it's in the book or it's not in the book, but they
That's your
changed
job.
it just enough to irritate me.
What did they change about it?
Because it's underneath the planet, because the planet is in fucking habitable. So they had to build this underneath the planet. All of that shit above doesn't exist.
Wait. So, of course, in the book, this planet is like barren?
no. So basically, in the book, Trantor has 100 levels of
Habitation.
shell built around it each level is inhabited. Okay. So no one's ever seen the surface of this planet.
It's terrifying to the people who live there.
And in order to get between the levels, they have to take these special elevators. In the book, the sky bridge and the space station don't exist.
Oh.
That was something that was invented for the show.
Okay.
Because it looked cool.
Well, that's fine.
There's me. I drool.
I know. And that's fine. And I'm not going to yuck your yum. And I'm really going to try to separate myself from the book moving forward.
Roll with the salt, Jude.
Yeah.
All right.
Salty
So,
nerds, right?
Continue on. Go ahead.
yeah. So we're now introduced to the rulers of Trantor and the Empire, the genetic dynasty of clones of Emperor Cleon I, named Dawn, Day, and Dusk. They are attended to by their first minister, Demerzel, a character of many secrets who plays an extremely important role in the overarching story of Foundation.
I was fascinated by this character.
This was freaking awesome.
So let me get this straight just really quick because I don't want to take all day on these guys. But you've got, they're clones, right?
Yeah.
You have...
They're the same person, basically.
So yeah, they're the same dude, old, middle-aged, and kid.
Yep.
And they all have their own little special roles. And the middle one actually does the ruling. Am I
Yeah,
right?
You're correct.
And the old one is kind of wise.
He's
and
the advisor.
Advises, and the kid learns. Now, do they grow into these new roles and then
Yes.
they replace it with a new kid?
Yep.
Is that
So
what happens?
as the old one dies, then the middle one moves up to become the advisor.
So is there a baby Cleon
Yes.
in somewhere right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's like being nursed or whatever.
Well,
Does he die at a certain age? Or does he die
It's
naturally?
like a floating embryo.
It's like I'm not quite sure.
okay, so Dusk, lives a natural life, and his replacement, the new Dawn, is currently in a kind of gestation chamber, like they're like a seed bank type thing. They're growing him, but he's suspended until such a time where he has to be brought forth, and then the current Dawn will become day, and then the current day will become dusk.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
This
but
concept,
it's pretty trippy.
this concept was freaking so cool.
And they're clons of the first emperor.
yes. Yeah.
So,
So the first emperor was
like clons of Palpatine. That
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I could totally see
Goddamn
Palpatine.
George Lucas.
I could totally see Palpatine doing this shit.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
The thing is, none of this is in the books.
Oh, damn it.
But it's such a cool
It's so
concept.
freaking cool.
Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah.
Dude, what is it just
I was like, seriously, I was like, man, that fucking Asimov, he's a trip. I want to start reading his shit. And it's like, and then he just fucking
burst the bubble?
God.
Sorry.
Dang.
Well, in the book, Cleon the First is the emperor, but they don't have this genetic dynasty. It's just a regular emperor type thing. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Asimov based the story of Foundation on the rise and fall of the Roman Empire.
Okay.
And so the space empire he created was based mostly off of the Roman Empire and how they operated. And so it was just when one emperor dies, his son inherits, and it goes on and on. But for the show, they introduced this concept of the genetic dynasty.
I gotta say, shout out to the showrunners
Yeah,
then, because
I mean-
that's freaking cool.
But at the same time,
Jude's
Jude's gonna be fucking pissed.
so mad at
because
me
that
right
is
now.
a huge change from the book.
That's
if
massive.
that's not even in the book. And I totally get it. She's
Thank you.
furious right now because I'm kind of mad that they did that. Because I was really into this character and now I'm kind of annoyed. It's like, but whatever, it's fine.
I don't know, man.
I feel like you should replace me for the rest of the
No, we need you.
No, we need somebody
we
with
need
some
the
salt.
counter. We need the counter
Because
balance.
me and Vader are very much like visual.
Me and him just like got shot right out of orbit.
Yeah.
We're like, man, this
fucking
character,
Asimov is a goddamn
he's-
genius.
he's
Like, no, it
great.
was this
It's-
freaking Apple TV showrunner guy.
You stabbed me in the heart
Damn it.
again.
Damn it. Okay, anyway, cool.
Anyway. All right, what happens next?
I also just want to point out that Demerzel is a character to keep an eye on. So Brother Day visits the mural.
I'm sorry.
That's the robot lady.
That's the robot nanny?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
And we'll get to her in a little bit more. So Brother Day visits the Mural of Souls and speaks with Master Aurelio. The mural is a loyal cleaner who has worked for the Empire for 68 years, and then has the old servant disintegrated for having a tract of Harry Seldon's located in his quarters. Not much of a retirement plan for the Empire, it seems.
Yeah.
I like this scene just because it showed how much of a freaking like brutal
It was ruthless.
ruler this guy
Yeah.
is. Yeah. It was just cool setup to see his personality type. It was like, oh, you read this guy's stuff? Okay, gone.
Yeah, that's also a running theme with Cleon, is like he always chooses death.
Mm.
And is it a coincidence his empire is dying? Not really.
Jude, how did you feel about this scene?
I don't care.
There's gonna be so many people in the comments who are like, "Freaking Jude, yeah!"
Fucking show.
God, I hope so. I'm so alone right now.
No, No, they're going to be in the comments like, fuck these salty nerds. Jude's on point.
When Kadish told me how much he liked it, I was like, I'm so mad at you.
Why didn't you like this scene? Because it's not in the books?
No, I meant the whole show.
Oh, okay.
Well, honestly, if they're just making their own shit up, why are they calling it Foundation?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's because it's the basic story.
So
like
this. I'm gonna make a TV series, and it's gonna have an empire in it, and space Nazis, and some space wizards, and I'm gonna call it I don't know, but it's gonna be inspired by Star Wars, but it's not gonna be Star Wars. Okay, so it's gonna have some
25%.
25%. Yeah.
And you're going to call it Harry Potter.
Yeah. So
anyway, all right, we can't take all day with this episode. Go ahead, Kadish.
So the emperors eat dinner together, and we see the relationship between the three, where the two older emperors school their younger counterpart in the ways of ruling. Demerzel arrives with news that the delegations from Thespis and Anacreon have arrived, and the emperors are determined to broker a peace between them. At the exit to the sky bridge, Gaal searches for Raish, whom she thinks is rather cute. Raish finds her and starts to escort her to the Imperial Library, where we meet with Harry. During their journey, Raish learns that Gaal counts primes when she's nervous, and finally they reach the library and Gaal is introduced to Harry Seldon finally.
Jude, you rolled your eyes as soon as she said, or as soon as he said she thought he was cute.
Yeah.
You have a problem with this? You don't like romance in this one?
Well, in the book, they don't even know each other.
Okay.
And they're two dudes.
Yeah.
all right.
And I think they're incorporating Raish's wife and Gaal into the same character.
Okay.
Again, I'm sorry. I'm going to try
Don't
and
apologize.
separate it, but this is just so totally different. And like the way that Gaal meets Harry kind of happens like this, but it's changed just enough to fucking annoy me.
I'm getting annoyed that they've changed it this much.
Yeah, we're only in the first episode.
Yeah.
Yeah,
only in the first
because
episode.
Gaal goes to, in the book, Gaal goes to find like a hotel for the night because he's supposed to start a new job, and how he got this job is different. But he's really nervous about his new job, and he's never been off of his planet before, and he's like bright-eyed and naive. And he goes to his hotel room, and Harry Seldon is in his hotel room like a fucking badass. Like, I know everything. I know where you're going to end up, and here I am, and I'm gonna tell you what's going on. And then that's when Gaal gets arrested. And it's really cool how it happens in the book. And this just I felt like was a little lackluster.
Wow.
I
And I don't know why they had to change it. Like, why did you have to change that?
I keep going to your analogy of what if they had sex swapped
Frodo.
or
Bilbo.
Aragorn or something.
Yeah, Aragorn. Yeah.
And I'm like, how dare you? That's Tolkien.
Yeah.
You don't fuck with Tolkien.
You don't fuck with
you
Tolkien.
fuck with Asimov.
You don't fuck with Asimov. Yeah, I get it.
It's like I understand.
See,
I totally understand.
So, but I gotta interject here because I believe that the reason they made that change is because they were setting up some clues for a reveal that's going to eventually happen, and we'll get into this.
Why can't they stick to the source material?
Well, because I mean, honestly, the source material is a little bit bland, at least in this part of the story. Like the psychohistorian's short that starts the book, which this episode encapsulates. Not a lot, like
you just said yesterday that you don't like reading Tolkien, but he's fucking bland. But you don't mess with him
fair.
Because he's Tolkien.
And also,
but you would say that the movies did a fantastic job of
adapting
him
his work
because they
I'm
took a lot of liberties
I'm
on the
hearing
movies.
that this isn't Asimov's work at this point.
But
Because
that's
they've changed so
that's not
much.
true.
also
That's Jude's
this is
opinion.
my favorite part of the book, so I'm really vehemently
he got pretty
angry
heated there
about
for a
it.
second.
Okay.
There's a thing. There are like super Tolkien fans out there who hate the movies that Peter Jackson made.
I get it.
There's
I've
always
going
gonna
to
be
those books.
Yeah.
I wasn't offended
Yeah.
by the adaptations because it's mostly right.
And I'm not offended by this adaptation. I feel like a lot of the changes that they're making have a purpose to them, whereas Jude is a purist on this. Like she wants a direct adaptation, whereas if they're going to be playing with a story that spans 1,000 years, they need to start setting stuff up early on in order for it to pay off later. And I have theories about why they made all these changes, which I will share with you guys if you want to.
If you want to see the blood and guts, go to saltynerdclub.com. All right, continue.
So Harry greets her and expresses how impressed he was with her ability to solve the Abraxas conjecture using Calay's ninth proof of folding, an obscure writing that has been ignored by serious scholars. Seldon gifts Gaal an original version of Calay's proof right before telling her that she's going to be arrested soon. Gaal starts freaking out as Harry tells her that they're both going to be arrested and put on trial for treason. Seldon explains his science of psychohistory, which is the ability to predict the future using mathematics and statistical models. He is predicting that Trantor will be destroyed and the Empire will fall, and naturally, the Cleons don't like that prediction.
This is such a WTF moment for the character. Like, oh, I just got here. Everything's great. Oh, by the way, you're going to get arrested and tortured. Like, what? What did you bring me here for? Like, I was like, wow, that's pretty freaking dirty, man. Definitely did not make me like Sheldon very much.
Seldon.
Seldon? What is it?
Seldon.
It's not Sheldon from
No.
fucking
Harry
Big Harry
Seldon.
Seldon.
Big Bang Theory. No, I'm just Harry? Jude,
Fine.
are you just going to murder us all in our sleep or what? Oh, you know I'm
I
terrible with
don't
names.
even want to be here right now.
I'll support you as much as I can.
Although that
thank
actor,
you.
the actor who plays him is...
Jared Harris.
Oh my God, dude.
awesome.
He elevates everything he's
He's doing
in.
a good job.
He elevates everything he's
He
in.
was the perfect casting choice for that
yeah,
character.
it's fantastic. And I kind of, it makes me want to go watch Chernobyl again because he's so freaking damn good in that show too.
Oh, I forgot he was in that.
So good.
What
All
happens next?
All right. So Harry activates his prime radiant and gives Gaal a glimpse of the psychohistory equations. He observes Gaal working out the math, and she realizes the Empire believes she's the only one who can prove Seldon wrong because of her ability to solve the Abraxas conjecture. In the next scene, the Emperors receive the Anacreon and Thespin delegations, each of whom present them with gifts. Brother Day explains that the conflict centers around a mining dispute over an asteroid claimed by the Thespins. The Empire didn't care who mined the asteroid so long as they got their 10% of the resources, that is, until Imperial blood was shed. Later that night, the Emperor's reviewing the gifts given to them by the delegation, and Brother Day points out that the Thespin gift contains a great deal of palladium, the precious metal mined from the rogue asteroid. 25% of the gift is made from palladium, and the Thespins pay 10% of it to the Empire in the form of a tax. Brother Day points out that the gift is a subtle hint from the Thespins that they are willing to up the payment to 25% if the Empire sides with them in the dispute. Day notes that the Empire's attention to detail is how they maintain the peace, and Dusk notes that if people step out of line, they hit them with a big stick. And then he points out that the stick should not be spared when it comes to Harry Seldon.
I got to go back and watch that scene again. I didn't get any of that.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
That went over my head.
Yeah,
That's cool.
it was really interesting to how they explain, number one, how attention to detail the Emperors are, the Cleons, but also like the way that galactic politics works, where it's all kind of like very subsurface, like very subtle kind of manipulations that, you know, the Emperors are kind of trained to see. I really enjoyed that scene.
Okay, cool. It genuinely makes me want to go back and watch it again to kind of get those underlying hints.
Yeah. So feeling overwhelmed, Gaal goes to the Seer Church and meets with the high priest there. The priest knows that who she is and offers to help her if she's in trouble, but Gaal chooses to go along with Harry's plan rather than accept the priest's offer. Raish drops her off at her quarters, and while sleeping, she dreams of the time she had her prayer beads removed from her face, effectively forsaking her religion in favor of science. And the next morning, Gaal is arrested.
This was a cool flashback scene. I like the dream sequence where like the water was rolling up on her as she was sleeping, and we get those flashes of them taking out her beads, or what are they called? Gems or beads?
Prayer beads.
Prayer beads. It was a cool scene, and it was a nice character building moment for her. I enjoyed this scene. What about you, V? Did you like it?
That was okay. I don't have a whole lot to add.
It's tough because we're just learning about these characters, especially me and you, because we're not familiar with it. It's tough to like make a commentary on what's happening other than, oh yeah, it was cool.
It was just more
world
character set up and build.
Yeah. Jude, how about you? Is this like super irritating that she had to take her prayer beads out?
Those things aren't a thing.
They're not a thing. More
All right.
made up shit.
I actually really like that we have a purist on the panel.
I do too.
I like that. I'm down because I'm not gonna hate the show just because you do.
I don't think we're ever gonna get a wedding now, but
Mike is
but we'll see how it goes.
She's gonna get an Isaac Asimov lookalike to do the freaking.
Oh, that would be awesome.
You can marry my
big ass
clone.
sideburns.
How about you marry my day clone?
All right, so Gaal and Harry are put on trial for high treason and face the Committee of Public Safety. Dr. Bashir prosecutes Harry, who explains that the Empire is dying dying and that a dark age of 30,000 years will follow its fall, and 10,000 planets will die in that period through war and barbarism. However, he has a plan to soften the fall and reduce the period of chaos to only 1,000 years if the Empire embraces the Seldon plan. And I just want to give a holler out to Alexander Siddig, who's basically in everything. Like he just shows up in everything.
Your mouth opened up. What happened?
I'm a terrible Trekkie.
What?
What?
I guess I wasn't paying attention at that point because
DS9?
I'm like, it didn't even dawn on me that was Dr. Bashir. It's like, fuck. I was like, God dang it. All right, moving on. Let's go.
All right. So
hold on. There was something that happened in this scene that, like, when Harry described his plan and what was happening to the Imperium, is that what they call it?
The Empire,
whatever. To the Empire. He made such a good point. He's like, guys, I'm not trying to work against you. I'm trying to help you lessen the blow.
He says, I'm not a revolutionary.
Yeah. I'm listening to him and I'm like, he makes a completely reasonable argument for his side. And it's so bonkers to me that they refuse to go along with it. They're just so offended that he even thinks that this could happen. And I'm like,
well, I get that. I understand that. Some whack out math wizard.
Alex Jones comes to you.
Like, they're gonna get this stuff and they're going to blow up the stuff in Sex Island and rape.
They're turning the frogs gay.
Yeah, I mean, they point out that the Empire's been around for 12,000 years.
Yeah.
And when you're like that deep into it, you just don't believe anything could ever happen.
That's a great analogy.
He's Alex Jones.
He's Alex Jones.
He is.
He's just a calm Alex Jones.
All right. So while in recess, Gaal meets with Jarrell, who is actually an Imperial spy who has been keeping tabs on Gaal since she solved the Abraxas conjecture. He gives Gaal the Prime Radiant and gives her an ultimatum. Prove Seldon wrong and he dies. Otherwise, she dies. Gaal unlocks the Prime Radiant and is able to review Seldon's psychohistory equations. And in this scene, we get more talk that Gaal is different from other people. And, I already mentioned the Mentalics, who are outliers, who have the ability to read minds. And I really think that's what they're building up to reveal with Gaal, is that she's a Mentalic.
Okay. Cool scene. I think it's a little goofy that, like, the only way she unlocked her thing was she like shook it and then like tapped it. Like there was no like real, I have to figure out how to unlock this thing. She saw Harry do it. And so he just tapped it on
memory recall was how to do it.
He just tapped it on his desk or something, but I just thought it was kind of goofy. I'm like, he didn't lock that thing?
Well, no, it was locked. Like she just knew how to do the motions to unlock it. Like
she saw him do it.
Yeah, so like she tried it one time, it didn't work, and then she remembered like how he did it exactly, and then she recreated that, and that unlocked it.
The little flip.
She's very special.
Yeah, she is. She's very Mary Sue.
She's Ray.
She's not Ray. But
Whoa. Freaking shots fired. I love it. All right, Kadish, what happens next?
All right, so back in court, Harry lays out his plan to reduce the coming Dark Age by building a repository of the world's or of the galaxy's knowledge called an Encyclopedia Galactica to give future generations a foundation of knowledge to build upon. And they kind of mention in this, well, we already have the Imperial Library, but Harry says, well, for how long? So that was an important line I just wanted to point out.
My grandma and grandpa had a really good Encyclopedia Galactica.
Encyclopedia?
In their library. It was really cool.
From the planet Britannica?
Did you guys have encyclopedias?
No.
They still even make those things?
I don't think they do.
We got Wikipedia. What the fuck do you need that for?
We got the interwebs.
I'm old. I remember I had an encyclopedia. It was like this big volume of books that had all the world's knowledge in them from A through Z.
So Dr. Bashir calls Gaal to testify against Seldon. However, Gaal verifies Seldon's work and says his calculations are correct, sentencing both Harry and herself to death. On the way back to their cells, Gaal intuits, because she's a Mentalic, that there's something wrong with the star bridge. At that moment, 2 suicide bombers explode, taking out the station and severing the star bridge. The star bridge then falls from orbit, cutting through Trantor like a garret, smashing through the planet's outer shell 50 layers deep as it wraps around the planet, killing over 100 million people and destroying the Imperial Library in the process.
I'm not going to lie, I totally geeked out.
I did too. That was pretty cool.
That was freaking cool looking. And I know she's going to roll her eyes. She's already is. I know it didn't happen in the books, Jude. But when I was watching that on screen, I was like, damn, that's freaking cool. Like, that's some epic proportion. The scale of this show is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you enjoyed it.
I'm going to get so much hate from people who agree with Jude.
I'm riding the fence.
You fence rider.
I know, man.
All right, what happens
I get
next?
it. I get her. I feel her pain.
I get it too, but
I totally understand.
this show's pretty cool.
All right, so the Emperors are furious and suspect that the Anacreons and Thespins were behind the attack and arrest both delegations. Meanwhile, Gaal and Harry are brought before the Emperors. The attack changed everything, and the Emperors are willing to listen to Harry, who claims that his followers had nothing to do with the attack. Gaal says that if the Emperors kill Harry, they will be dead within the year because they'll be seen as killing hope and thus accelerating the fall of the Empire. Seldon says the Emperors can save their legacy if they agree to his plan. The Emperors agree to allow Seldon to create his foundation on an uninhabited periphery world along the outer reach called Terminus, which is also where Anacreon and Thespis are. The galaxy will know Seldon is on Terminus fighting the fall of the Empire, and if he's a fraud, his movement will quietly die out there, but if he's successful, the Empire will co-opt it to further their regime.
I actually think that's pretty clever.
Yeah,
It's not about, I mean, if you're the Emperor and you're like, how am I going to play both sides of this? That's the way you do it. That works for me.
And that's kind of like Cleon's thing, is like he's always like looking at all the different angles.
Mm-hmm.
He's being a politician.
Yeah, it's really good. The actor who plays the Brother Day or whatever, the main Emperor guy.
Is that the middle one? Yeah.
Is that the dude who plays Ronan from Guardians of the Galaxy? And also he plays like an elf king in the Hobbit movies.
Oh.
Is that the same actor?
It could be.
He is the Elf King in the Hobbit. Yeah.
He is. Okay, so that's the same guy who plays.
Okay, because I was feeling like
Looks really familiar.
He is Ronan in Guardians.
He is Ronan in Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay, cool. I knew I recognized him.
Lee Pace, I think is his name.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, he plays this part really well. I like him.
He's amazing in this role.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He owns it.
He really does.
His blue freaking armor outfit.
Oh, he looks
thing.
great.
It looks cool.
Listen, I love this character. I like the three of them as one character. It's a trip.
It is a trip.
It's a really interesting
It's like,
concept.
here's baby version of me, here's
But
adult version, and here's old man.
Now I'm angry because I'm on Jude's side with this. You should not put that
I'm sorry
high.
I put you in this position.
Dude, that is a really highbrow concept character to just fucking insert into the whatever. I don't even know what the word is. I mean, this is supposed to be a big deal, and to change something that much is weird.
I mean,
so
I say at least it's not a dumb concept.
Yeah.
That would be worse. If they
To me-
changed it for
to me,
something
it's
dumber.
Like, it's like, are you going to make Gandalf into like three separate characters kind of thing? It's I don't know, man. It's goofy that they would change something like that so much, but whatever. Jude, I feel you. I really do. It's
I'm
strange.
sorry that you feel this way.
I'm torn because I really like the character. It's a cool concept. You know what I mean?
They are a cool concept.
Yeah.
I'm just mad that it's in this.
Okay.
Yeah, I get it. I totally understand.
What happens next, Mr. Kadish?
All right, so once released, it's revealed Harry wanted to be exiled to Terminus all along, and that it was part of his plan to continue his work with Imperial support, but without Imperial spying. It will take his followers 5 years to migrate there without jump drives. Harry takes Gaal on as his protege and asks her to help save the galaxy with him. And here, Harry establishes the concept of a Seldon crisis, which is really important. These are moments where his plan to save the galaxy are threatened. And he predicts that the Emperor's peace will be maintained as the Anacreon and Thespin delegations are being marched in front of him on their way to prison. So remember the Seldon crisis, guys, because these are like the major moments where all the action happens in the story. And this was the first one where whether or not the Emperor was going to kill him and the foundation would be established.
You know, unless they change it for narrative reasons.
Is that the end of the episode?
No.
Okay.
So we got one more scene.
Go for it.
Back on Terminus, 35 years in the future, Salvor Hardin watches over the Foundation settlement. Gale's voiceover explains that psychohistory could predict the behavior of entire populations with stunning accuracy. However, with individuals, it wasn't so accurate. Outliers exist which could disrupt Harry's plan to save the galaxy, and Salvor Hardin is an outlier who can make it through the null field and all the way up to the mysterious vault. And what Salvor Hardin finds inside that vault could just destroy Harry Seldon's plan.
Dun, dun,
Dun,
dun.
dun, dun. All right. Well,
Really cool first episode. I know Jude hates it, and I'm totally fine with that.
yeah.
But for somebody who's green coming into this fresh faced, I'm very impressed with this show. I was in. I like the characters.
Yeah.
And if you're in the comments and you're going, these freaking plebs, they don't understand Isaac Asimov. I get it. Don't hate me.
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from. I really do. I don't know what to say.
Nobody's ever going to accuse this show of not talking about both sides of this issue.
Yeah, there's always going to be a
do.
divide.
And I'm torn.
Are you?
I do. I mean, I really enjoyed this. I do. I'm kind of annoyed right now.
I feel bad because you loved it going in.
No,
and
I
after you
no,
spoke
don't get me
with
wrong. I
you're
still like it.
Now
I
feel
still do.
torn about it.
I'm still going to watch this show, and I'm still going to I'm still going to enjoy it.
I'm going to try.
But I'm
like
going to be fascinated by
How much she hates
how
it?
much they change, and I'm going to defend you because I don't think they should take liberties with this stuff. This Asimov is a cultural icon. He's up there with Tolkien.
Mm-hmm.
Vader
Okay.
is my champion.
And it's just I don't even I don't have anything more to say about
You're
it.
talking
right
about two very different mediums, though.
Yeah.
You've got the written word, which is where it shines. The story shines in that
Yeah.
version. When you take it and you turn it into a TV show, you have to
but-
take some
and
liberties.
this is why it has taken this long to do this.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, this show is supposed to be impossible to do on TV or on
Apparently
Well,
it was because this is
but-
not it.
okay. So there you go. There you have it.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of on Team Kadish with this one. I think the liberties that they're taking, I wouldn't say that they're an improvement on the original story, but they're an improvement as far as a TV show goes. Because you have to lean in that direction. You have to keep audiences captivated, and you have to make a story that is very familiar for people who are watching other TV shows. This is not a book. You can't just translate straight book to TV.
But it's based on a book.
And
Well, I
I
also
think for
find-
the,
And it's supposed to be an adaptation of the
I
book.
also find it interesting that you're indignant having not read the book. so
I'm-
you don't even know the source material.
No, but I'm
indignant for
I'm
me.
indignant for her, and I'm annoyed that they're changing characters so
Because-
much.
yeah, you're.
and
I mean,
do
the
think
Emperor
that-
thing is wild to me because that's a completely different. It's a whole different, complete concept of what they have in the book, right?
Yeah.
So-
I do think that most of the people watching this
Fucking
are
book shaming me.
probably not people who are very familiar with the source material. So I get that they're making this based on a concept that will be very visually stunning. And in that, they are succeeding.
Okay. All right, cool.
So
Any
did you just visually shame me, stun shame me?
No.
It's like, oh, it's pretty. It's really cool.
Vader's riding the fence. He's going to get
Because
hate from.
I'm on that side too.
He's going to get hate from both sides, and he's going to be pissed about it.
No, I'm not.
It fuels him.
So I'll say this: the show is actually using the books as a good framework with which to tell the story, and they're filling out things that were not in the books, of course. But I feel like the stuff that they're adding to the story is actually enhancing it in a way that I'm enjoying. So I'm not on Jude's side in the sense that, like, you know, I'm usually a book purist. I'm usually like, oh, like, you know, you need to stick to the source material. But in this case, I feel like the source material was lacking in enough detail where the stuff that they're peppering in here works for me. And I feel like I'm excited to see where it goes. And like I said, they set up so much stuff. Like in our second episode, which we're doing for our members only area, I'm going to lay out like all my theories that you guys are probably going to, you know, have your heads explode.
I'm going to need to watch the show again before.
They're using the books like how pirates use parlay. More of a guideline.
The pirate code. All right, guys, that's it for our episode 1 review. If you like what we do here, if you like what we do with our other TV shows that we review, become a club member and you will get access to every single episode of this show going forward. So everything from here on out, episode 2 through to the end of the season, and then the seasons, I'm assuming the seasons to come, are all going to be members only. So go to saltynerdclub.com. It's a fantastic community that you're going to be joining. You're going to get Discord access. You're going to get exclusive episodes, behind the scenes photos. You get to chat with us. You get to tell us what movies you want us to review, and all kinds of really cool stuff. You get to see us raw, unfiltered. We just kind of go ham on things. We don't have to worry about the algorithm. We don't have to worry about YouTube taking us down or anything like that. So join the club. saltynerdclub.com. It's only $5 a month. You guys get a huge value out of it, and it really does help us out a ton to be able to make more and more content for people. So
It's a club, not a cult.
yeah, totally.
You can worship me if you want.
All right, Mr. Vader, where can they find you on the socials?
You can find me at MattVader74 on YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Getter, some of the I made you laugh, and the other things. I'm out there. So.
All right, and Jude, where can they find you and talk about books?
You can find me at I am Jude Juju on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. You can also find me at thevoiceofjude.com. You can check out my webpage.
Right on. And Mr. Kadish?
You can find me at Matthew Kadish, Kadish on Twitter, and kadishbooks.com will take you to my Amazon page. And also be sure to check out our following episodes in the members area, because this show is going to get deep. We're going to go super deep dive into it.
Yep. Great.
For sure. All right, everybody. I am your host, Alex, the Salty Nerd. You can catch me on our Discord app. Go to saltynerddiscord.com and jump in, and I will say hi to you. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We were looking forward to seeing you in our members-only area.
Yep.
And
if you really want to know what we thought about episode 2, be sure to sign up.
Yep. Right on, guys. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And as always, stay salty, my friends.